150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
Vehicle is now transferred to its onboard batteries and topping is
140.
completed.
Launch enabled. 137. FTS armed.
There's so many fishy shit about this whole video. It just mind blows.
120.
Like,
OCU's armed. SCS count started. EDS ascent. Starliner, last arm to auto.
Last arm auto.
now I'm not saying they're not in the upper limits of the sky.
That call meaning if the emergency detection system on Atlas detects something.
Rock report range status. Range green.
But I think they're in the upper limits of the sky.
EOP started.
But word space, like they said,
It
they
will
go
trigger
to
the launch
space.
abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile out.
Atlas at flight fresh.
Yeah, so I think they're just in the upper limits of the sky, which when nighttime comes, it will look more space because you're out there, and when you're in the upper limits of the sky,
25. Status check.
you could drift
Go
above.
Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Starliner.
You could
Godspeed,
definitely
Bush and
drift.
Sunny.
You don't need much energy to push around to float out there. It's just there's no air. It's
10,
dense out there.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
All right, I want you
And
guys to pay
liftoff
attention
of
to those
Starliner
rockets.
Atlas 5.
I want you guys to pay attention to those
American
rockets, right?
heroes.
And look at the color of those rockets.
For all of us.
The end part where the fire is coming out of, it's gonna come up when they're like in the outer limits of the space that they say they go to. Some of these launches
Commander Butch Wilmer, they're
go, but some of them
calling down to
fail.
mission control here in Houston.
This
The
one
spacecraft
happens
has
to
begun
actually
rolling
be
into right
successful.
attitude for its ascent. The guidance, navigation, and control officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
Looks like a dick going out in the orbit, right?
Starliner passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces
So,
of air
as I
friction are
mentioned
highest,
before in
which
other
will suddenly
videos,
shortly
the
be
bird
passing
has an
through Mach 1,
altitude,
where the speed of sound.
then a helicopter, then a plane, then a rocket. You see how it is? This is when you're leaving the outer limits of the atmosphere. This would be like you on a plane and you're looking down at the outline of the Earth. This right here looks real, but there are parts of it that just look like it's AI shit. Like,
You got a good throttle up.
all right, we're going up. So this is a video from
Starliner
Earth.
and Atlas.
We're going
Looking
up.
good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
And also,
Good SRB burnout.
when they descend, how come all that stuff that descend never comes back to the Earth? If they've been ascending to
Now
space
the
all
fuel
this
in the
time,
solid rocket
we should be
boosters has been
showered
depleted.
all that
The
junk
Atlas
back
main
from
booster
space,
stage
no?
will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Mind you, this is very dangerous. If anything goes wrong, everybody
Good
goes
handle.
to smithereens.
Good handle.
That call.
Like, look
good
at that
handle from
fire
Capcom
flame right
Joshua
there. That should
Frederick,
look real to
indicating
you.
that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed.
That
All
fire
looking
flame's
good
right
so
there.
far.
That looks
Now 2 minutes into Starliner's
that looks
flight,
like
coming up on
computer
a solid
generated
rocket booster
shit.
jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
Yeah, look at that smoke right there. They're supposed to have 4K camera. You trying to tell me that's how it's supposed to look when you go out to the outer limits? This shit right here just look, this whole black smoke right there, it looked fake to me. It really looks fake to me. Like, it just looks so
You're doing
fucking
that
fake.
good trajectory. CLC.
If I'm looking through a lens and they should have better cameras than me, that smoke is not supposed to look like that.
Confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
So I guess we're outside of the orbit, right? They allegedly cracked the firmament. You know what I'm saying? This should just look like some green screen shit to me. Like, they're supposed to have the best quality camera. There are moments where this looks like this video is still, but it's actually the aircraft or the spaceship is moving. It's just moving fast, where it just look like it's still, but it's moving.
Atlas booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Sunny, and trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
All I'm saying, this camera that is giving us this footage right here, it just don't look the best. And if they're sending pictures from the outer limits of space going back to Earth, they should have a way better camera. Their camera should be like 100K. Like, I'm talking crispy clean. Like, this right here just look sus to me. Like, all right, I guess this must be something that's recording outside. You see how they just jump from one scene to another? So they must have something that's giving a trajectory of what the plane look like. Now look at these boosters, right? Look at these boosters. All right, look at them. I guess we're hovering over the Earth, right? The round Earth that they say we have.
Staging.
Here in the ground.
Decals open. You have sublimator rock.
I just wonder where all these, where the debris goes.
Team on the ground reporting that they saw the ascent cover on top of Starliner that's been protecting the
Right. Where does all
spacecraft's
these
docking system through its
pieces
climb to
go?
orbit. They saw that jettison as planned.
They're falling off. I've never seen any report of those pieces. Where they go?
And now the second stage's 2 Centaur engines have ignited to continue pushing Starliner into space, fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
So they go real to computer generated. They go real. This is what the plane is supposed to, the rockets or the space is supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like that on the exterior.
You had good booster performance. You're up to plus 31.
Plus 31.
This shit just don't look funny. Like, how we go from that to this? Like, we just
Atlas
jump
control
from
reporting
scene to
booster
scene.
performance offset of 31 seconds of ISP, or specific impulse, relative to its design baseline of around 450.
And if this landmass that we're looking at looks like that, shouldn't that be below how the Earth looked like that from outside? Because the only time you see landmass like this is when you're about to land, if I'm not mistaken, right? I'm just saying, like, this is the only time the landmass is supposed to look like this, like when you're about to land. This look like this is like on the world itself. Landmass, water structure and all that stuff is supposed to look like that when you're looking up from the sky above, but it looks like it's planted on top of the Earth.
Continuing to perform well, almost
Which I
7
find
minutes into
very,
today's flight.
I don't know. They probably copyright this when I try to post it, but I'm going to post it anyway and see how it goes. So something I was looking at this morning, right? See the boosters that they have here in this picture and the one that they was showing before prior to they cut to this scene, they look fake, but I guess this is what the rocket is supposed to look like when it's in space. It's just like an animation of it. The landmass thing, I just can't get over it.
Good center.
I can't get over it. This looks like it's on Earth and it's
Countdown
like
Joshua Kutrick.
it's like hovering
Continuing to pass
past
good
the
news
land
at
to
Starliner's
ascend.
crew. Last one reporting that
Like,
the Centaur
this
upper
right
stage
here,
remains in
this
good
whole
condition and
scenery
is performing
makes no
well,
sense to
pushing them
me.
into orbit.
It makes no fucking sense to me. Because when you're looking up from the sky, when you're in a plane or whatever you're in, this is what the land is supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like this trajectory right here. But they make this look like that when you're in
St.
space.
John's open.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
St. John's.
This shit was cracking me up this morning.
Starliner is now entering its first guided abort range, where Starliner would direct itself towards a specific location in the event of abort. In this case, just off the coast of St. John's, the capital of the Canadian province of Newfoundland Labrador.
This is crazy to me. The landmass is caca. Like, yo, this shit right is fucking... Yo, if you're in space, how we have a landmass like this? How we looking at a landmass like this? It should look like that from up as your highest point in the sky looking down. But if you're in space, why look like that?
11:5
Shouldn't you see the world from a different trajectory?
You're at 34 to 36 seconds.
Oh, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm talking. Maybe I'm blowing smoke out my ass.
52, 34 seconds.
That call letting the crew know that the main engine cutoff, MECO, should happen just about on time, about 12
I wonder
minutes
where they're
into
going with
today's
this thing
flight.
now.
Another good indication that
What's the
Starliner's asset is
destination?
taking along exactly as expected.
Oh, this is a
Main
Boeing flight.
Main engine cutoff is a major milestone marking Starliner's arrival on orbit. Still got about 2.5 minutes until we get to that. With the spacecraft continuing to perform well, make its way towards orbit.
No action.
Shouldn't we see
Starliner on the
videos of
FTL.
these
That's
ninjas
just
inside the
system
aircraft?
up into control
Also, why are we watching the animation of it?
Outstanding. No action.
Y'all don't find that kind of strange? We seen the animation of it. So we're not
Once the main
seeing...
engine's cut off, the next step will be the launch vehicle separation. That's set to occur just short of 15 minutes after launch, when Starliner will separate from the rocket and fly free in space for the first time.
Ooh, in space. Sure thing. This shit right here just blows my mind. This shit right here. I'm basically watching a cartoon, a make-believe of what is going on.
Flight Dynamics officer reporting that at this point, Starliner could potentially make an abort landing off the coast of Ireland.
Why we don't get no footage of the pilots that's in the aircraft?
And they're, again, all continuing well, so we're not expecting to need that abort.
Yeah, why we don't get no footage of them?
As
Like what
Starliner
they
is
do, what's
rapidly
going
approaching
on,
orbital velocity,
how
the
they
support region's only
feeling
available
with them
for
going
just over
to
1 minute,
this,
where Starliner would
this
just
fake space
continue
that
up
y'all
orbit
going
after
to.
that.
No footage of them. We just watching a animation of what the launch should be. The only time we saw anything was when they were on Earth, and then they allegedly ascend into this orbit, whatever, of space, or this abyss of space. Trying to figure out when we're gonna see what's going on with the pilots and shit like that. Like, what are they going through?
30 seconds, D'Amico.
Just 30 seconds to go.
I guess another part got to
Now until main engine cutoff, marking Starliner's arrival on
detach.
orbit.
I just find it very absurd that they cut the comments off. Why they didn't want nobody to comment, like, you know. And for FYI, the Earth is not flat nor it's not round. The land is flat. I just think we're in a sphere. And I know a lot of people is not going to agree with that, but that's just my belief from what I see looking up. You know, like it would be like it would be like round, right? Like it would be like a round area, and then when you come down to Earth, like
And with
everything
that
is
nominal
flat.
MECO call,
Oh,
that's the main
everything
engine
is
cut
flat.
off.
The whole land
we've
is
got good
flat.
energy,
I don't
meaning
think
a
the
good
Earth is flat
velocity
nor
for
round.
continuing to orbit,
It's just
and a good plane, meaning
in like
Starliner's
a
trajectory is
bubble.
aligned with the
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it
International
could be
Space
shaped
Station
anyway.
for rendezvous tomorrow.
And with that, Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams returned to orbit. Individually, they are both extremely experienced astronauts.
14:5 to 14:52.
14:52.
They're both very experienced astronauts with a combined total of 489 days in space between them. Starliner is also the third spacecraft that they've launched in. Both have traveled to the International Space Station via space shuttles and Soyuz and are now well on their way to repeating the journey via Starliner.
I don't think they go to space. They
It's
go
also
to
worth
the upper
noting that
limits of
Williams'
the
role
sky.
as pilot marks the
That they
first
could
time
float
that
around and
Williams
shit like
crewed
that,
a
and you could
flight
see
test of an
a
orbital
lot
spacecraft.
from that distance. Whereas in where you're down here, you don't,
Just a few
you're not
seconds ago,
exposed
you
to a
heard
lot of
Capcom
things.
Joshua Kucher calling
I
up
just think
to
it's the
Butch and
upper
Sonny,
limit of what man can go. But all this stuff that they go into all these different
with
stars
the
and
expected time
Mercury and
Starliner will
Jupiter,
separate from
I think
Centaur
that shit
at
is all
about
cap.
14 minutes, 52 seconds into flight. Just under 2 minutes from now, or 1 minute from now.
The upper
That is
limits
actually the last
of
major
the sky.
milestone for Starliner's ascent. All the hard work is done, but we need for Starliner to be flying on its own before it can begin heading towards the International Space Station. There's a slight pause in the action here while Centaur repressurizes and does some attitude control. We'll get into the right orientation to send Centaur on its way and then jettison it and move into the right orientation for the orbital insertion burn, which will come about 31 minutes into flight.
And a lot of people subscribe to the shit that they go to space. A lot of people subscribe to it. Where they go to, there's no oxygen, it's dense. You could pretty much freeze to death. So all the gear that they have would make sense for them to go. But the way the ship moves, the way the spaceship moves there, it's a different kind of way, as in it's floatable. Where they go, it's more floatable. There's less gravity to than here, because that kind of gravity actually keeps you afloat. This gravity that we have, it keeps us down. So they're in a different kind of gravitational area, and the gravitational pull there is different, more on the upper limit than here. See them this dispatch. And as I mentioned, where does all this stuff that they leave goes? Where does it go?
LV SEP confirmed.
So they're in that little piece right there.
Good LV SEP.
And now that Starliner has separated from this Centaur upper stage, we have a big thank you to our partners at ULA, providing Butch and Sonny a smooth ride to space.
That is not the end of today's orbit activity, though. The team will now be getting ready for the orbital insertion burn, which comes 31 minutes after flight. So that's still about 15 minutes away now.
Why we don't see the pilots?
Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore will be getting their tablets out and doing a few other activities to get Starliner ready for that. And that will be one of the, that will be the first in a series of burns that will set Starliner on its way to the International Space Station.
You know what I don't like with all this fucking space shit? Why we never see when it leaves from the Earth until wherever they go to, like footage for footage, not cut out different scenes of and different areas of what's going on. We see everything exterior. We never see anything interior, in depth. We never see any of that shit. And why is it that all of this stuff is all flat? That's why they say the Earth is flat, because everything is flat. The plane takes off in a straight line, and the rocket takes off in a straight line. It goes through in curvatures.
Starliner with astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams on board launched from Florida, the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, launchpad 41 at 9:52 a.m. Central, 10:52 a.m. Eastern today, and they have now made it into orbit.
TDRA show MDL is active. You have good targeting.
I do believe gravity is based upon your location of where you are, and that gravitational pull there is different from what's down here. When you're in certain area, the gravitational pull is different. When you're more further on out, it's just like when you jump out of a plane, the gravitational pull is pulling you down. But with the upper limits of the sky that you go to, the gravitational pull is totally different there.
We've got good
I honestly
communication
believe
with
that.
the ground. TDRS is the tracking relay data satellites that Starliner uses to talk to the ground, and the flight controllers on the ground are seeing the dynamic.
Go ahead.
Their video is well doctored and well, like, it's just different.
We're all listening. Go ahead.
We're watching
Yeah,
a
they've been a
trajectory
member
of
the
what,
family for a
like we
long
see
time,
everything else except
but
for the
now
pilots.
it's official. And
Why we
wanna
can't see the
welcome them to
pilots?
human spaceflight.
Why is that?
We all copy all.
That's
and,
my
really
concern.
appreciate the
I want to
work.
see the fucking pilot. I want to see these guys. They're on Earth. Let me see what's going on in the cabin.
And Houston Starliner, we are on the tablets and in insertion monitor.
Let me see the video of the cockpit or in the
Copy
spacecraft.
tablets, we're with you, insertion monitor.
So the crew have their tablets out, so no longer using the paper procedures now that the vehicle has stopped moving so quickly.
You notice there's a lot of white people there, maybe 1 or 2 niggas, but more white people than anything else.
So
They
there's a
into that
handful of
spaceship.
things
They
that the
just
crew's
drag
going
us
to do
into
now. Mostly just prepare the inside of the cockpit, so they are looking
Yeah,
at
let's
the
see
right
what's in
data
the
to
cockpit.
prepare
Let's
for
see
the
what's going
upcoming
on in
orbital
there.
insertion burn.
Let's see what's going on in the cockpit.
The vehicle itself.
Let me
has
see
done a
them.
few
Let me see
things
the pilot.
recently. Started to power on the
Let me see the peoples.
solar rays on the back of
Let me see the
Starliner,
staff that's in the cockpit.
turning off several of the thrusters that are no longer needed at this phase of flight.
Let me see the pilots.
Upcoming in about 4 minutes, Starliner is going to start to orient itself in the direction it needs to do the orbital insertion burn. And the crew inside the vehicle will be turning the wireless access point on and allow them to stream some of the data from the spacecraft onto their procedure tablets.
That's what I wanted to see. From Earth going to where you at.
And Houston Starliner,
We're watching a
blast
fucking
arm is
screen.
off.
Like,
Backup
really?
Control switches enable one on, enable
Man.
off. SMRCS is the mode.
Y'all jacking this shit right here?
We copy off. Enable 1 is on. Enable 2 is off. SMRCS, you're in a good config.
Good config.
And the reason why I turned the phone to the side, because I wanted to get like a full scope of what this whole thing is. So you definitely got to flip your phone to the side so you can see the whole thing.
Good.
UDXTV.
Damn, we've been watching this green screen or whatever this shit is for the longest. Can't see what's going on in the cockpit. Can't see them pressing them buttons up. Can't see nothing. We're just watching stuff from what everybody's seen on it. Well, they're showing us one thing, and I guess everybody's seen what they need to see. They're showing us, the people on YouTube, something different from the norm. You know what I'm saying? That shit just don't make no sense to me. We should be seeing what's going
Things
on
will be pretty
in the
quiet as
cockpit.
Starliner gets into position for the orbital insertion burn. That's still about 10 minutes away. Starliner is actually designed to be pretty autonomous, and in fact docked with the space station on its last trip around without the help of any crew on board. But we do still want to know that if needed, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams could take control and manually abort the spacecraft's approach to the station if they needed to. So to prove that, one of the few things on their agenda after they reach orbit will be to perform a test of the manual piloting mode.
Whatever that is. Oh shit, we're in space. Now we're seeing clouds. Or this is another screen.
This test will involve first pointing Starliner's nose towards the Earth so that its communication antenna on the back of the service module is pointed at the satellites, the teeter satellites, that allow it to communicate with the team on the ground. They'll then move
what camera is this?
Starliner so that its solar arrays are pointed at the sun, showing they could charge Starliner's internal batteries as needed. And they'll follow that up with a demonstration of the star trackers, one of the ways that Starliner determines where it is in space, pointing Starliner away from Earth so that the system, the Vesta system, can get a good look at the stars.
The next step will be for the crew to manually speed Starliner up and then slow back down, which will slightly raise and then lower their orbit and prove that they can manually break away from the orbit that the space station is in if they needed to. At that point, they can move on to the last
Starliner,
items of
still
the
no
test.
action on your cabin temp. You're in a good config. It's 74 degrees in there. Yeah, and that's just due to that T2 sensor sitting beside the light. So we're actually going to inhibit that particular sensor. We'll let you know when we bring it back online.
Okay, great. Looks like we're on our way to thrust line.
Concur.
Josh Kutrick calling up that the crew can ignore some alarms they're seeing on the temperatures inside Starliner. That's just a result of one of the sensors being next to a light that's causing it to show higher than it actually is. But it sounds like the crew are pretty comfortable and are getting into place for that orbital insertion. As I was saying, after they have manually broken away from the orbit of, proven that they can manually break away from the orbit of the space station, they are going to move on to the last items of their test for tonight. That's manually moving Starliner into the right orientation for re-entering the atmosphere, and then moving back into the attitude that will let them soak up some sun with the solar arrays and try a different method of manually charging the spacecraft's batteries. But again, once that all has to wait until after the orbital insertion burn. This is, again, the first of several burns that will put Starliner on its way to the International Space Station. We've still got about 6.5 minutes until we fire up the engines for that burn.
Starliner, we did not see the hand controller deflection. Just wanted to know if you did that yet.
No, we'll get it now.
All good.
Man, this whole shit just looks sussy to me. All of it. Look very sussy. Still watching the TV. We're not seeing what they're seeing down here on Earth. They're showing us what they want us to see. I mean, motherfuckers could tell you anything. Anything. I'm just not buying it. I'm not subscribing to it. It don't make no sense to me. Still watching this goddamn green screen. Alright? Still watching the green screen. No real footage. Nothing. No nothing of what's going on in the cockpit. Which I'm like, we left Earth like what? A half an hour ago, 27 minutes, 28 minutes now. And no action in the cockpit. Which I find very unusual.
Team here on the ground
but we
seeing
see
that
everything else.
is looking like it's in the right configuration for the orbital insertion burn. Now less than 5 minutes away. Starliner is currently about 102 miles above the Mediterranean Sea, heading southeast over India in the next few minutes.
Now we stopped seeing the fake Earth. It was over.
Good config.
Now we just, I guess it must be out of Earth orbit, because if we're not seeing Earth, that means it must have passed Earth and it's somewhere else.
The OI burn.
That's the only thing I could think of.
Crew and ground control is noting that Starliner is pointed in the direction it needs to for the OI burn. Should also be about the time that the crew are using their tablets for their procedures, also charging them, keeping them topped up for the rest of the rendezvous.
We unfortunately won't have a view of Williams and Wilmore as they work through this procedure. Although we had a view of them from inside the cabin on the ground, Starliner isn't able to send that view to us again until it gets to the International Space Station. So you'll be seeing this screen quite a bit as Starliner was getting into the right position for the burn. And actually just now you can see some of the engines firing that help it steer and move around in space. And you can also see what attitude it's in at any given time. Lots of good information on the screen.
Yeah, we're seeing all anime right now.
A lot of this information
Cartoon.
actually directly mimics the views that the crew is seeing, especially the one in the upper left-hand panel. That is an exact copy of the display the crew is using for their attitude directional indicator. It also covers what mode their translational hand controller and the translational pointing is in. On the left side, on the right side, the pointing guidance, which tells the Starliner in automated mode which direction to point, or when in manual mode, which direction the crew needs to move the vehicle, like we're going to do in some of the manual piloting maneuvers. And following back up a little bit on
so we're basically seeing a whole bunch of nothing. More yapping and a bunch of nothing.
Mustang system that we should see on our PCM-1 mission, and that will include live feeds from inside the cockpit.
And the Mustang system is the cameras that we were seeing views from earlier.
That's correct. There's a handful of cameras around the inside of Starliner. We often see the one from kind of beneath Bush and Sunny. That's given one of the better views.
Why we can't see those cameras? What those cameras are recording
inside the cockpit during pre-launch. But once they're in orbit, they've gotten out of their seats a little bit, and we should be able to see a little bit more around the cabin.
I can't wait.
Usage is just a little more than we thought.
So
we were
basically, we're not going to see anything more. It's just more yapping, more lies,
from the
and
ground,
a lot of fake
we'd
shit.
Like to swap you over to the other leg.
So I'm just going to end it right here because the rest of the video is just, they're going to talk about, they're going to do some talking on Earth about what the experience was, but we still didn't see those people in the cockpit. This is why I'm not buying none of this bullshit. These niggas is full of shit. Fake space.
Joshua Kudrick there again.
And this is what we
the,
see throughout the
crew,
end of the video.
Some words about information they're seeing on orbit. This one related to sublimators, which are used to cool the spacecraft down. But
we didn't get to see the people in the cockpit. Anyway,
nothing
thanks for joining the Emancipation Show. I'm your host, Kel. Stop buying this fake bullshit, space. Space is not real.